Summary of the mimer so far. The mimer is addressing the question of the Ben Chacham.
Rabbi, you turned off your camera, I think.
I turned off what?
Your own camera?
My own camera. Ah, that's okay. That's not helping us. Okay, so that's not what I'm looking for. FaceTime HD camera built in.
Are you looking for record?
I'm looking at to record that as I'm speaking, yeah.
Right near the chat or reactions, there's a big record button on the bottom.
Oh, wow, simple as that. Okay, so right near the chat, record button. Okay, shkoyach. Okay. So the summary of the Maimir so far, basically the Maimir, we're questioning the question of the Ben Chacham. That doesn't seem to be a Ben Chacham at all. From his question and the answer that we give him, he knows nothing. He essentially knows nothing. He's asking, what's Yiddishkeit all about? And our answer that we're obligated because Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, doesn't know that obviously because that's what we're telling him. So not he understands our obligation, not does he understand the second thing we tell him, that it's good for us, that it's for our benefit. So these are basic themes in Yiddishkeit that he has no clue about, and yet he's called the Chacham. So obviously that's not what he's asking. Now the Maimon continues to probe deeper and deeper into the nuance of his question. Just to give the summary of where we're holding right now in our exploration of his question and to some degree even our answer to him. The essence of his question, I'm not repeating all of the nuances, but just the bottom line here is on two levels. Number one, he doesn't understand the way Yiddishkeit works today post-giving of the Torah. He does understand the way Judaism, the relationship with God was before the giving of the Torah. That makes sense. The avodah of the office, for their avodah was purely ruchnius, and any physical things they did were just symbolic, a keli, something to focus on. Not unlike meditation that uses symbols and words and imagery, but all those symbols and words and even objects are just that. They're symbolic to help focus the mind and achieve a state of transcendence, and that he understands. We're talking about a relationship with God. But here, after Matan Torah, the astute child knows that although that's a component, the essence is the action alone. And citing, for example, matzah itself, if a person were to sit at the Seder table and have all the profound meditations of what matzah means, as explained in Torah on all of its levels, including Kabbalah, but not eat the matzah, no mitzvah is achieved. No connection to God happens. Whereas if someone doesn't understand nothing of matzah and eats it because take the matzah and eat it, he fulfills the mitzvah and connects. So he doesn't understand how a physical act, a finite physical act, could possibly connect us to God. And why have we jettisoned? Why have we relegated the role of spirituality to be secondary? Moreover, see, what this all revolves around is trying to understand why he says the word you. So this is the first level, saying you, he means himself as well too, because he says Elokeinu, but he says Eschem, because he means you post Matan Torah. But the Maimon wasn't satisfied with that, because he could still say Isonu us, and the same question, how does Torah mitzvahs work for us nowadays after the giving of the Torah? He has not compromised his question at all by saying the word Isonu. We're still probing why he says the word Eschem. So it's at this point it's a mystery, and we're trying to resolve it. Now the Rebbe brings another point here from the Fidige Rebbe to add to our exploration here of what the Chacham is asking. But before that, we have to appreciate some other questions, which would be, of course, the keys to the answer. if he's asking why mitzvahs action, how is that paramount, then why is he talking about Eidos Chukim and Mishpatim? On the contrary, the difference there isn't kavanah. The difference there isn't kavanah. So he should be asking simply, what's the mitzvahs that Hashem's commanded you or us? We haven't resolved that question, but at any rate, the whole point is post-Matan Torah. Why invoke the distinctions? And then we also pointed out the order, the sequence of the three categories are not in sequence. Either you go from below to above, so it's Mishpatim, Eidos Chukim, or you go from above to below, Chukim, Eidos Mishpatim. But not Eidos Chukim Mishpatim for the reasons we explained at length in the Maimer. So that's a key to something far more to his question. So here the previous Rebbe said something, that when questioning also in his Maimer, why the Ben Chacham says Eschem, the previous Rebbe says the mistake we could think is that he's excluding himself from the details. He's accepting the base. Lekeno is he's accepting the basis of our faith. But what's the Eschem going on? The Eidos Chukim Mishpatim, and we could think he's excluding himself, which is why we're asking, don't say that word Eschem. It's an offending word that keeps on, wanting us to put you in the category of the wicked to some degree. Yet the Chacham insists on it, and the whole Maimon is going to explain that no, he has to ask the question Eschem. That's the end's going to be. It's got to be this you and somehow exclusion. We're far from understanding how that is so, but we're trying to get to that. And what the nuance that we've now introduced from the Fidik Rebbe's Maimer is this. We've got to grasp this, fellas, not to be able to go further. But that the word Eschem goes on the Eidos Chukim Mishpatim. That's the fear. When we say the word Eschem, that's what we could possibly misinterpret. Elikeno means he accepts the general yoke of heaven. But the detailed Eidos Chukim Mishpatim is rejecting. Now, surely that's not the case. But the fact that the word Eschem is associated with Eidos Chukim Mishpatim is a key. And the key is this. And now we're going to answer why, in fact, he does invoke these three categories. I won't explain the order yet, but why he invokes the categories. What he's asking is this. We got to do mitzvahs because Hashem tells us. Why should we categorize? This I understand logically, eminently, Mishpatim. And this I understand, Eidos, after the fact, testimonies, as we explained previously. And Chukim, I don't understand. It's all the will of Hashem equally. And there's no, what value is my understanding more or less of the mitzvah? It should be pure Kabbalah soil. That's what he's asking. We don't need reasons. We don't need reasons. Hashem said that's enough. So that's the Eschem that he's saying over here, that he's excluding himself so far, is that, of course, we do all of this. And he's observing all the details as well. But what he doesn't understand is why there should be this distinction. And why we should endeavor to understand to whatever degree we can. Who needs to understand? It's Hashem's will. And God is beyond understanding, and that's how we should approach all mitzvahs. That's our understanding so far of his question. Now we're going to go further. We're up to page, no, I have different page numbers than you, but the second paragraph in Ois Gimel. Yeah. Okay, so we have not at this point answered all of our questions, but we're just getting closer to our objective here in peeling back the layers and the nuance in what the Chacham is asking. Yishleima Rabbi bezed explanation, b'mitzvah shnei inyonim, there are two dimensions to the mitzvah. Zeh sham mitzvahs. And what are we explaining now? We're going to explain his problem with the Eidos Chukim and Mishpatim. In mitzvahs, there are two dimensions. Number one, that they're Hashem's commandments. That's true of all mitzvahs, no matter what. I mean, that's also true even with respect to, as we see, that some mitzvahs carry greater penalties for failure to observe than others. So some are more severe than others, clearly. But that's the second category. The first category is God asks. That makes no difference whether he asks, so to speak, a small act or something very significant. What's common to all mitzvahs is that he has asked for it. And then, then is the second category. What kind of mitzvah? Eidos, chukim, mishpatim. And these two dimensions are also to be brought to bear as we observe the mitzvahs. When a Jew is about to perform a mitzvah, he has to have awareness on two levels. The kavanas and mitzvahs in his intent, shnei inyanim. Two dimensions. Number one, kavana kalol is a general intent, which he would have no matter what mitzvah he's about to observe, and that is, I'm about to do the kayim tzivay Hashem, about to carry out God's commandment. The kavana zu ibachol mitzvahs b'shava, and this is true of all mitzvahs equally. That's number one. The kavana pratis, and then there is a individual kavana, a specific kavana. Kima mitzvah, the mitzvah I'm doing, mipnei sho eidos, it bears testimony. Ois, a sign, v'zikaron, a remembrance, aleza inyan, like the examples brought earlier, Shabbos, tefillin, matzah, mezuzah, etc. Oy mipnei shichuka, ogzeda, or it's a decree, like Sharpness or paraduma, or according to some authorities, even kashrus. Oy, or it's a third category, mipnei shemechayav magam tzad haseichel, it's logical, honoring parents, not to steal, etc. So now, Sharpness ben Chacham hu. So what's the Ben Chacham's question? Again, this is based on the dik of the Frierdiker Rebbe, that the eschem is he's removing himself from the Eidos Chukim and Mishpatim, not chas v'sholem, he's removing himself, I'm not going to observe them. It means, he's asking, why are you categorizing into the three categories of Eidos Chukim Mishpatim, Mekiv, since Shekol HaMitzvahs Tzivay Hashem, they're all God's commandments. Why is it important to categorize? That's only surely from our perspective. You do understand, you don't understand. It's quasi-rational, it's super-rational. These are all from our perspective. But the essence is that Tzivay Hashem. That's his question. And now he concludes, that's why the previous Rebbe says, even though he says Elokeinu and he's including himself, Yeshmokim Litos, we could have made a mistake. When it comes to the details of Eidos Chukim Mishpatim, he removes himself. I might have thought that. I might have thought he's only accepting Yiddishkeit, in the general sense, yes, there's a God, he believes in Judaism, but he's not into the actual observance. Why might I have thought that? Because Hitaka does mean by the word Eschem to some degree, question not the observance, but why the need to categorize. And that's why we're kind of asking the Chacham, why are you leading us upon this path that we could make a mistake? Why don't you just say Eisonu? And we'll still understand, your question. And the end of the maimah is going to be, no, he's got to say Eschem. That will only be answered at the very end of the maimah. But at this point, what we are getting is that his query is so far on the categorization of mitzvahs. And now the maimah, this is the heart and body of the maimah, is now going to explain this. In detail, his question, and we'll also, in the course of this, understand why he puts Eidos first, and then Chukim, and then Mishpatim, not following any logical sequence. Right, we're good? We understood by first prefacing that which is explained in the Maimah, the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimah, Shegimel, it's a beautiful chidush here. And that is, Shegimel in Yonim, the Eidos Chukim Mishpatim, Hein B'chol HaMitzvahs. Every mitzvah, friends, has all three dimensions. What differentiates one mitzvah from another is which component dominates. But as he's going to explain now, that every mitzvah is Eidos, and every mitzvah is Chukim, and every mitzvah is Mishpatim. Shagama mitzvahs, first of all, he's going to, in this next little paragraph, he will state it as a statement of fact, and then Va'inyan will explain it. First of all, we find that all mitzvahs are called testimonies. In brackets, Hashem established testimonies for Yaakov, and that's referring to all of Torah. So we see that they're all called edus. All mitzvahs are called chukim. Even mitzvahs that have a reason, edus vafilu mishpatim, edus and even mishpatim that are eminently logical. Hatam morak al kolas mitzvah. The reason is only for the reason only applies to the general mitzvah. But if you look at the details, we'll see they transcend logic. For example, he's saying that even the most logical mitzvah, let's take the most logical mitzvah of all is not to kill. The most logical mitzvah, because if that wasn't observed, they would all disappear. So any society, in order to survive a day, has to have that in place, at least for its own society. If you look at the details even of Leisirtzach, overall it makes sense. But if we examine critically, we'll find the case, we've demonstrated this before, that's completely illogical. And here's the scenario. Imagine the following scene. There are two people lying in a hospital bed. And one of them is an old man who's sick, not on his deathbed, but very sick. He has a terminal illness. He's the most disagreeable person. Everybody hates him justifiably, and he hates himself too. And in fact, he wants to die. He's a person that made untold people's lives a misery. He was a landowner, and he didn't give people a break, and his business dealings were ruthless and often dishonest. He was, by all objective standards, a disgusting individual who wants to die, and he's 100 years old. In the same room is lying a young mother, a paragon of virtue, with 8 children, beautiful and pious on every level, whose children need her. Goes without saying. We can make the example more dramatic, but you get the point. Now a third person walks into the room, and he has 2 guns in his hand. The second gun he gives to the woman, and he says, "You kill him or I kill you." There's no Hollywood ending here, someone's going to die. Either the old man says, "Yes, kill me, I've had enough, I hate you all, I want to die." Or this fellow that walked into the room is going to kill the mother. So the halacha is she can't kill him. That's a detail in the laws of Hilchos Ritzeach that make no sense, my friends. By all logical, objective, emotional, reasonable standards, he should die and not her. So even though we can illustrate this in Leisignov and every other logical mitzvah, if you probe the details of it, there peeks through, in the details, there peeks through. Why this? It's Gzeira Milamayla, it's Hashem's will. Not to say that there are not exceptions to halachas, it's also Hashem's will. But all to say that all mitzvahs are chukim, either overtly chukim or subtly chukim, as evidenced in the detail. Clear? Yeah. The Maimon continues. And likewise mishpatim, shagam ba mitzvahs, the edus v'chukim yashin the mishpatim. Even those mitzvahs that are testimonies, and even chukim, there's logic to them. In fact, Chassidus explains every single one of the chukim. Just to illustrate one quickly, the one most touted as a chayik is Sharpness. What in heaven's name is wrong with Sharpness? Wool and linen. What's immoral? What's wrong with that? Or kashas, as we said, meat and milk. What's the problem? Even paraduma. But let's talk about Sharpness for a second, just to briefly address it. That Sharpness, the idea of Sharpness is the respecting of the boundaries of nature, of the delicate harmony of nature, namely. Wool and linen. Wool represents the animal world. Linen represents the plant world. Not to cross graft which is what the prohibition of Sharpness is not to create mutations, is not to disturb, dissolve the unique identity of each element of creation that contributes to the whole. And it's an incredible message there, that each individual has his unique role to play, and I shouldn't merge myself and try and become something or somebody else that I'm not. That's a profound message from Sharpness. The animal world, the plant world, they all have, the whole world is this great integrated living entity where each part uniquely, each instrument, like in the orchestra, has to play its role, and it's very different, one instrument from the other, but it's only therein that the symphony can be played beautifully. So an incredible message of the laws of Sharpness, not to crossbreed, not to graft, not to create hybrids, and many other levels as well. It's also arrogant. Hashem created the world this way, you want to create another species? Not enough. All kinds of lessons. Paraduma is tremendous lessons. Paraduma, Chassidus explains, in order to, what's the whole chayk of paraduma? How is it that the people involved in making the paraduma themselves become impure? Tremendous message. In order for someone to purify someone who's in contact with death, which means spiritually disconnect, you have to be ready yourself to become somewhat contaminated by their world. You can't sit in your holy ivory tower and have an effect. Shlichus, tremendous messages. So, but what's that? Here, this is all hasbara, all explanations for what? Just in a very general kind of way. But overall, Sharpness and paraduma, etc. are chukim. All to say that all mitzvahs have all three components. I really didn't address Eidos yet now, because you just addressed the two extremes of beyond understanding and logic. We'll soon see the Eidos thing. But all mitzvahs have all three dimensions. What differentiates it? So why do we categorize Eidos, chukim, mishpatim? Again, it's what dominates. Is this a predominantly Eidos mitzvah or chukim or mishpatim? Now he's going to explain in detail these three categories. And now we're going to have the answer why the Chacham puts Eidos first. So the matter is understanding what is the three inyanim of Eidos, chukim, mishpatim is as follows: the begila likush adei mitzvahs. When a Yid does a mitzvah and he draws down godliness, Gimel Madreges B'chalalos, he's eliciting three levels, generally speaking. And they are, he's starting from the lowest level and then ascending. First, he's drawing down the level of a likus that's invested in creation, tailored to creation. The B'chalalos Oid HaMemale. This is the level of Oid HaMemale. As we learn in Chassidus, Memale means a divine light that fills creation. And what that means is it's Hashem's divine energy responsible for the unique nature of everything that exists and its properties. Everything that exists has specific properties. And where they come from, that's because there's a divine investor that has those very properties on the Ruchnisdika level, and hence it manifests in the physical object exhibiting the same properties. So water looks the way it does, and has all the properties it does because it's the incarnate or invested in it is chesed. And fire behaves and looks the way it does because invested in fire, in the property of fire is the inyan of Gevura. Just to quickly illustrate that, I use these two examples because they're simple components of creation, so it's easy to see. So chesed, the nature of chesed is to come down, water comes down. Chesed gives to one who doesn't have. It's all about bestowal from above to below. The nature of water is to cause things to stick together. Pure chesed treats everything equally. Water is transparent. Chesed, there's no discussion in chesed as to whether the recipient is deserving or not. It's a blanket bestowal. Pure chesed gives everybody everything. We're talking now pure chesed. Fire, by contrast, goes from below to above. Gevurah says no one gets anything unless you've elevated yourself and you deserve it. Fire, water is silent, and fire is by definition noisy, because fire is produced by the consumption of fuel. Gevurah says in order for you to get, you've got to give up something. Water is silent. Water demands. There's no dialogue, there's no discussion. Everybody gets. There's no demand of avodah. There's no surrendering, there's no giving up. But fire says, Gevurah says, in order for you to get, you've got to give up, you've got to consume your ego. Fire separates things as opposed to water, because Gevurah judges everything independent, every recipient independently. And moreover, water causes all things to merge, coalesce in one mass. You can't see what's happening on the inside, because again, Ches is not concerned with your motives or not motives, your particular state. Everything is equal. Fire separates, exposes what's within, because pure Gevurah is critical and demands not just an allegiance, an external allegiance, but an internal allegiance. So we're talking here pure fire and pure water, pure chesed, pure Gevurah. So that is an example, classic examples of the properties of the physical world, a reflection, and as a result of, invested in them, are these divine properties. In general, it's Shem Elikim. Then you have but then there's a level of godliness which is higher than investor in creation. Generally, it's Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's higher, but still relates to worlds, as he will explain presently. I'll leave that unexplained right now because the Maimon will explain it for us. The Beklolus in general, that's the level referred to in Chassidus as Eir HaSovev, a light which transcends the worlds. The first level is a light that permeates or is invested, enclosed within creation, tailored to creation, fused with creation. This is a transcendent light. And then there's a third level, the Atzmus Eirin Sof Shalamayim Mishaychas La'ilamis, and then the essence of Alikos, which is higher than any connection to creation, even to say beyond. He now elaborates. The Eir HaMamale, the first level of the divine investure, which is invested in creation, musig gam b'seichel. That can be ascertained and grasped even by logic, as we just talked about now, chesed and gevurah. We can look at creation, we see wisdom, we see intelligence, we see a divine, intelligent creator. And not just intelligence, we see beauty, harmony, we see splendor, awe, wonder, terror, all of the incredible components of that we can see in nature. So what's the parallel in mitzvahs? The parallel in mitzvahs, first of all, in general, as we divide the three categories, and then, of course, as they exist within all mitzvahs. The parallel in mitzvahs, which we want to, which aspect of mitzvahs reveals in the world Mamalak Alalmin, answer, it's the logical dimension of mitzvahs. We understand the value of the mitzvah, what it affects, what it does, how it contributes to the world. Hasagas HaSeichel, the logical dimension of mitzvahs, by appreciating that as we do the mishpatim, or by appreciating the mishpatim dimension of whatever mitzvah we're doing, even the Eidos and Chukim, as we said, for all three categories exist in all three. What are we doing in our performance of mitzvahs there? We are being mamshich and revealing the malak alalmin. Are we clear? Folks. Then, the infinite light, let's call it infinite because that's an appropriate term, not finite. So, ein shaykh b'asagas achiyov, Seivev cannot be accessed through affirmative grasping because you can't define it. It's beyond definition. But akidiyas ashlila, we know it by saying what it's not. The fact that the person knows, on this level, the mind has grasped that this cannot be understood. The mind is appreciating the transcendent, infinite truth of this Gilu of Elikus. So what's he doing now? What he's doing is he's transcending, he's surrendering his intellect, recognizing that now he's connecting to that which is beyond intellect. So it's a surrender, a bittul. And that's how he's mamshich that level. That therein lies the connection, in his very surrender. So what, in general, category of mitzvahs connects to Seiviv? What's chukim? Chukim are the statutes. A person has to surrender. He confronts this mitzvah and says, it's beyond understanding, and surrenders. He nullifies and surrenders his intellect. The words of our sages, talking about the paraduma, you have no permission to think about this because you're not going to get anywhere by thinking about it. And you have no permission because this is a boundary you can't cross. Rishus means a boundary. And a finite human being cannot cross the boundary with his mind to that which is beyond the mind. And how does a Yid connect to Mamshich Atzmos? Good. So at this point we're wondering, okay? So the tool to be Mamshich Mamala Kalal Min is Seichel. The tool to be Mamshich Seichel Kalal Min is surrendering the Seichel. What's left? So what do I do now to Mamshich Atzmos? Instead I'm asking. Let's continue. Matzv Seirin Sof Sheini Begeder Shayches LaOlam. When it comes to Atzmos, the Eibishter himself, he has no connection to creation at all, not even to say he's beyond creation, because that itself is a connection. You cannot say about Atzmos Ein Sof that he's beyond grasp. Like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, a famous kind of illustration. There he says, in Sharach Yichud, Perek Tes, if someone says about the Eibishter, God's so great that you can't understand him, he's beyond grasp. Says the Alter Rebbe, that's analogous to that someone says about this very deep idea. So you just learned something. So his friend says to him, you learned this, how deep is this idea? How deep is the idea that you just learned? And he would respond and say, oh, it's so deep, you can't touch it with your hands. That's how deep the concept is. Says the Alter Rebbe, anybody that hears him say that will laugh at him. And if it wasn't a deep concept, you could touch it with the hands. That's how you're telling us how deep it is, you can't touch it. The whole world of touching doesn't belong in the world of ideas, simple or complex. So to say that the idea is so deep that you can't touch it with his hands, that's analogous to saying God's greatness is beyond understanding. Now that's the Alter Rebbe's point. The Rebbe now elaborates. Kinyan hashlila, because when you say something is higher than something else, when you say about something that it's beyond a second thing, when can you say that? When you say something is beyond, you can. It's only shaykh when there is some connection. In the example of the Alter Rebbe, that world of ideas and the world of touch, they're completely different worlds. There's no connection at all. So it's foolish to say that the idea is so deep that you can't touch it with your hands. So likewise the Alter Rebbe is saying, to say that God is so great, that he's beyond understanding, the whole idea of understanding and beyond understanding, he's beyond. The Rebbe adds in the brackets here, even it takes us further. The nimshal, meaning the Eibishter and Seichel, is further removed than ideas and touch. Because the Kimmel Shishneim and Nivraim Mekbal, end of the day, ideas and touch are finite creations. So yes, Shachas B'neihem, there is a connection. They're just different worlds, but they're not fundamentally removed. They're still part of the created reality. But when it comes to the Eibishter and everything else, the Alter Rebbe is giving us the best moshel we could come up with in this world, but it's an imperfect, it's a flawed moshel, the truth is, because even ideas and touch, even though it's foolish to say it's so deep you can't touch it. But ideas and touch are still connected because they are all part of the physical world. And in fact, all ideas are really our analysis of that which can be touched. It's all considering what is, what's in the corporeal world. So, Rebbe is pointing out the limitation of the moshel. So the truth, therefore, is that which we say, the truth, that you can't say about Hashem, that he can't be grasped, it's far more it's far more than the analogy of an idea is so deep you can't touch. The distance is truly, in the word distance is a wrong word, but the beyondness is far more beyond than the beyondness of the world of ideas from the world of touch. So, all to say, what are we left with? When it comes to Atzmus Ein Sof, there are no tools. You're saying something, footnote 32? Huh?
Yeah, there's in the footnote 32, it goes into a little bit of why.
He's pointing out the same point. You have it in front of you, you can look at it there. This went on which words? Even the Rebbe is saying that the point that we're saying here now is also hinted to in Shar Yichud itself. Although the Alter doesn't spell it out, but it's hinted to there. We're going to leave it, just I don't want to distract us. But he's just saying that it's really there as well. The point we just said now, namely, that the Be'ein Aroich of the Eibishter from everything else is beyond the Be'ein Aroich of, obviously, the world of ideas and Seichel. The question now is, so how we mamshech Atzmus? Malakal Amen we mamshech through Avon Vasaga Seichel. Seivim Kol Amen we mamshech through Bittul of Seichel. Because it's Shayach. It's Seivim Kol Amen. Infinite, not finite. So you access it indirectly through the union of what? Of your Bittul of Seichel. What about Atzmus? V'lochein continues now. Hamshachas Atzmus Ein Sof. The drawing down of Atzmos, Eine Gam, al Yadin Chukim. Oh, it's already late. It's not even through Chukim. Bittul HaSeichel. Ki given since Lagab Atzmos Ein Sof, in Shaykh Leima Gam in the Shlis HaSeichel. You can't even say about Atzmos that he's beyond Seichel. That will connect you to Seivim, but not to Atzmos. So that will continue Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. That's the union of Eidos. And that will explain why he puts, the Chacham puts Eidos first. That we'll see tomorrow Be'ez Hashem.